Welcome back to another episode of Inspirational Journeys of the Best Minds. Today, we're thrilled to introduce Y, a leader in the world of communications. With an impressive 16-year career, Y has worked with teams on their communication strategies at leading tech giants like HP, Microsoft, and LinkedIn. Y's dynamic career encompasses brand management with diverse business teams across social impact, government relations, supply chain, business strategy, and more. Her leadership has elevated the brands she's passionately served, unlocking economic opportunities for the teams that she has worked with. We're excited to have Y with us today to share her journey, career lessons, and invaluable advice for aspiring leaders.
Thank you so much, Jackie.
Let's dive right into how you got started. Could you share with us your childhood and what led you to work with HP and Microsoft?
Sure. So, what I will tell you is that when I was 6 years old and when I was really passionate about horse riding and animals, technology was the furthest thing from my mind. I actually wanted to grow up to be a vet. And then I realized that, what was most amusing was just the fact that I just had really bad, mathematical or biological knowledge to be able to achieve that. So, just with my career in communications, I started in an agency, earning $500 an hour. That was it, as an intern, working 11, 12 hours a day. And I was told to make a pivot by a leader of mine that went strictly into enterprise technology and B2B technology. And I thought to myself back then, like, there is no way I'm going to go anywhere with this. I'm going to hate it. It's going to be terrible. But you know what? For some reason, that path worked out pretty beautifully. And, as a large part of my career, I've spent it in 3 Fortune 100 companies working on technology and all the great things that comes with it and being part of the trend as well.
Oh, wow. So, how did you end up with HP?
So, it was a funny thing because I was actually working in agencies. I started at Team Lewis. That's what they're now known as, and also the Hoffman agency. And obviously with Hoffman, I was having an amazing time. Like, I think with agency, like, just with the variety of the pace and the kind of clients and the diversity that you really have to embrace, it was really awesome. And I think just out of kicks one day, I think, HP came to me back then and they said, well, we've got a role for you. Are you potentially interested? And I was like, let's try it out. I've never done this before. Let's just see what happens. And I think after 3 interviews, they kind of made an offer. And that was when I was like, oh, so what do I do now? Because, I actually didn't think I ever wanted to leave an agency environment. And I actually spoke to my boss then. Her name is Maureen. She's still with Hoffman today. And I said, well, what do you do when a Fortune 100 company comes to you with an offer for a role? And she just looks at me and she was like, you don't say no to the Fortune 100s. And I was like, oh. So that's literally how I stumbled into my very first in-house role. I went from a company that was, I want to say, about 120 people globally back then to
Mhm.
252,000 people. It's a
Wow.
big change, but it was an exciting one as well.
Huge change. Any pivotal lessons that have influenced your leadership style throughout your career journey so far?
Well, I'd probably say that my leadership style has truly been influenced, kind of by both people in my personal life, like my dad,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
also in my professional life by the many leaders, that I've worked with as well, and many colleagues that I've worked with as well. So I definitely say the pivotal influence really comes from everywhere. But I think there's just a couple of lessons really that I've kind of taken to heart and kind of really helped me shape my career over the years. So, I mean, what I did obviously was I took a bit of a path less taken, or the path less traveled, so to speak. So, when I was in school, like most people would have
Mhm.
finished off with a degree or an MBA, I was in university and I suddenly decided that it wasn't the thing for me. And I decided to, go to a polytechnic, do mass communications, thinking that I wanted to be a journalist, you know, and that, you know, pathwise, at least for education, is something that very few people take.
Mhm.
And I think it was one taken with a lot of apprehension as well. So, what I've learned, however, from that experience is that being different and taking a different path, you know, is totally okay. And it's okay to embrace it, right? And I think I've seen that through my entire life experience as well. Because as a kid, as well, when I was a little bit on the fat side, well, I still am, but one of the interesting things that was that back in school, we actually had something called a trim and fit club, and every day during recess, the kids who were overweight would basically be doing dance lessons instead of eating lunch because that was how they wanted us to be more healthy. And what was very interesting then was that the teacher who was in charge of those lessons actually came to me and she said, "Would you like to join gymnastics?" And I was like, "Have you lost your mind?" Literally, that was exactly what I said. But you know what? It apparently was a really great decision. I went on to win 6 gold medals, was
Oh,
participating in medals.
wow.
It was a really amazing journey for me. So I think, just with that gymnastics lesson, with how I've gone in my educational career, really just being different is actually a great thing. And I think being able to look for the nuance in that, not just in your life, but also in the lives of those around you, is really how we tell the best stories in the communications industry in Korea. So I
Mm.
hope that was helpful.
So, two questions. One, when you decided to stick to communication, did you ever look back? Did you have any regrets when you changed that career path?
So I genuinely believe that everything in life happens for a reason. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and I think in most cases, that reason is really what pushes you to becoming a better person or a better
Mm.
version of yourself.
Mm.
So I think, to answer your question, like, did I ever look back? Honestly, I don't ever think there was a reason to. I've just really enjoyed every bit of the experience, made sure to take in what I could in terms of lessons, learning from others, and just really enjoying the experience. And I've never seen a reason to look back, not once in my life, not for
Mm.
career, not for education, not for anything else. But it's really taking the lessons from different parts and journeys in your life and really embracing that to become the best version of yourself.
Wow, that's very powerful. And second question, do you still do gymnastics?
So, I actually had an injury that resulted in
Oh
me ending
no.
my gymnastics career back when I want to say, in my early 20s. But for most gymnasts, to be honest, like even for Simone Biles, if you think about it, 27 is pretty much the end of a gymnastics career
Mm.
because your body can only take that much. I actually still enjoy a good competitive trampoline jump every once in a while. So I do spend quite a bit of time still doing that. But I have taken a bit of a step back to slow down. So at the moment for me, it's aerial. And also
Okay.
Pilates that takes up most of my time to help just keep the flexibility and just enjoy the best of what other forms of exercise and flexibility and mobility have to offer as well.
Okay, that's great. So, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced early on in your career, and maybe how did you overcome them?
Biggest challenges. I kind of feel like that education one that I talked about at the
Mhm.
start was a big one because I think, as a child or someone going to school in Asia with Asian parents, to a certain extent, that stereotype rings very true even today, where there would be that expectation that if you're
Mhm.
going to nothing but top schools, you're just going to keep progressing in that direction. So I think for me, one of the biggest challenges I ever faced, at least in my personal life, was making that pivot, right? And I think that was at a time when even technical diplomas were not really something that was seen as respectable in the industry. And it was really about working twice as hard uh,
Mm.
to prove anybody like wrong, and to literally say that with hard work, just having an interest and caring about what you're doing can truly make a difference. And I think my career really speaks towards that. Professionally, of course, what I'd say is that every business or every workplace presents different kinds of challenges, and
Mhm.
obviously you pick up a whole bunch of skills over time to learn to accommodate them, collaborate better, and learn from the other people around you as well.
That's fascinating. I know you mentioned just now that your father was one of your most influential people in your life. Could you elaborate why he was so important to you?
So I actually think I just get a lot of my personality from my dad. So I think just, whether it's just going out there and meeting people and having friends. And I think one of the things that my father always encouraged me to do was that, it's okay, just do you and do the best version of yourself. And like, I've kind of really kind of had that ingrained in me, and it's just really stuck with me. So he was one of those fathers, that was just very committed to his family. And one of the interesting things that happened as a kid was that at about the age of 6 or 7, one of the things that I suddenly took an interest in happened to be a very expensive hobby, and it was horse riding. And it was and it was something, that as a father, you would think twice about sending your daughter or your son into, like regular riding class,
Definitely.
encouraging that, you know? And I was the kind of kid that like waking up early was never a thing. I'm just like really bad with mornings. I still am today. But it was really funny because horse riding was literally the only thing that would have me up at the crack of dawn. I'd have my apples cut, I'd put on my outfit, and I'd literally just go to my dad and be like, I'm ready, we can go now. And he'd have to drag himself out of bed, like take me to lessons once a week. And, like just the effort that he put into that to allow me to pursue something like that was amazing, right? And as I said, it's not something that every parent will encourage. I was very
Mhm.
lucky through that experience. And horse riding actually also taught me some really amazing life lessons as well. So very thankful to, my dad, obviously, just for being that encouraging person to just go, it's
Mhm.
okay, try something new and it's fine, just be the best version of yourself. And, I think it's a great lesson for everyone to take home with them as well.
That's a really sweet story. What advice would you have to give to aspiring professionals who are maybe just starting out their corporate careers or want to develop their own leadership styles?
Absolutely. So, what I'd actually say is that there's two things. The first is really learning from the best of what those around you have to offer. And it's really about making sure that you're taking the time to really understand how senior leaders around you operate, right?
Mm.
How your colleagues operate and really learning the best from them. And I think, for me, as somebody who's been in the corporate world for a significant part of my career, that's literally how I've learned. And I've been very lucky to have been given the opportunity to a certain extent, just be that
Mm.
fly on the wall sometimes in senior leader meetings where I actually just get to be part of the conversation to understand how senior leaders think and picking up skills that I can adopt
Mhm.
along the way. So I think from a corporate standpoint, that's what I would definitely say is important. Sometimes you building the best version of yourself is not just improving on yourself, but also learning from those around you as well. And I feel like that's highly valuable if anyone gives you the time, the opportunity, or if somebody opens the door for you. So definitely pay
Absolutely.
attention to those moments and make the most of them.
Mhm.
From a personal front, and I think this has really helped me all of my life. So, what I'd say is be excited about everything. Like, I know it sounds really crazy, but sometimes just that excitement and that positivity is really
Mhm.
important to bring to the table for yourself, because even if something's not interesting at first, you never know what you might find as part of that journey. I can tell you that in the time that I was with HP, for example, that company went from being one Fortune 50 companies to one Fortune 50 company to two Fortune 50 companies. That is rarely something that you see in the corporate world, but I got to be front and center of that. And I think, just learning from those experiences and literally thinking like, oh my God, this is going to be the hardest thing that we've ever done as a communications team and company. But really, as we went through both the positive and the progressive part of those conversations, it was my opportunity to learn a lot, and it was really because I was excited by everything around me.
I think staying excited as a leader is also really important because it definitely inspires other people around you as well and influences how they work and their mindset, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that excitement also comes with a temperance of what I definitely say is a solid dose of empathy.
Mhm.
I think it's very important when people talk about empathy in the corporate world, or even just, empathy in general to society and people around you. It's one thing to say that I'm empathetic, but I think it's just another thing to just simply know how to be nice and be kind to other people. And I think it's something that people forget. So, and sometimes some people are going through bad days. They may
Mhm.
not be in the best head or mind space sometimes, and they don't always tell you about it. So, there's really no harm in being kind first and just
Yeah.
being the person, the bigger and the better person in that conversation, because you never know when it can really make a difference to the people around you, especially.
Yeah. So we always end with this question. If you were to win a lottery and money isn't a factor, what would you do with your time?
Oh my gosh, so easy. Conservation, conservation, conservation. So it's very interesting how the world of sustainability obviously has become very focused on green reporting, carbon financing, microfinancing, and a lot of these areas, and obviously ESG reporting. But I think what's very interesting, especially with the ESG goals, is that there is a huge portion of the S that sometimes people forget about. And conservation and preservation of wildlife and forestry actually is a really important area. It's something I'm highly passionate about,
Mhm.
and it's something that I really got super excited with, especially in Microsoft when I worked on some projects that actually made a difference in the world of conservation. So if I had all the money in the world, like for sure, it would definitely be to put some of it into conservation projects and really helping us better preserve wildlife in the world around us as well.
Wow, I can tell you're extremely excited about this topic and very passionate about it. Could you tell us more about any of the projects you have worked on?
Absolutely. So one of my favorite projects of all time, I literally call this one the icing on the cake. The name of the project was called Fin Finder. And it was something that we worked on at Microsoft in collaboration with Conservation International and with N Parks. And they are known as the National Parks Board in Singapore. So Microsoft actually provided funding back then for this project, and we were working with a project manager on at the National Parks Board and Conservation International for this one. And what was really interesting is that if you think about it, for border control officials, right? If you are looking through tons and tons of shark and ray fins that come through borders every day, right? You're not going to be able to just pick up a fin and go, I know what shark this is and it's illegal. It's legal. It's really difficult for them to tell. So sometimes when they're doing inspections, you actually end up with a situation where they actually used to have to go through a book that was about this thick and they'd have to like hold the fin and flip through it and go, looks like this one may be legal, may not be legal, but we're not sure. And just with Singapore being a central port of call, as an entryway into the rest of Asia, that was a real challenge that we had at border controls. And one of the solutions that we provided was actually called FinFinder. The team that worked on it was a global team of about, I think, I want to say 23 people, from developers and all that. And they actually worked on an AI powered app that actually allowed you to scan or at least take a photo of a fin that may have come out. And with about 89% accuracy, it could actually tell you very quickly if that fin was legally or illegally traded based against a database of 15,000 photos and imagery that we had put together as part of the project as well. So for me, I really loved that project because it was an opportunity for me to get on the ground. Like we were in freezers as a team, like literally taking photos of frozen sharks' fin as part of building that database. And that database and the system that we've built as that mobile app is now being used at border controls in Singapore. But what was really interesting about it is that that project was taken to COP19, which is the conservation equivalent of Conference of Parties. And one of the things that came out of part of the advocacy that the Conservation International and NParks teams had done for us was that we actually were part of a team that were able to convince CITES to actually add more endangered species of shark and rays to their list, which is an amazing effort, given that they have capabilities to actually, help countries better regulate the illegal entry and exit of fins based on the level of conservation for sharks and rays around the world. And I think the recent word from one of the team members who originally worked in the program, she came to me one day and said, "Hey, why? Like we've made a difference." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Do you know that FinFinder is now being used and trialed in 30 countries around the world?" And I was like,
Wow.
"Get out." And she literally said that. And I think at that moment, I knew that conservation and technology have real power to make a difference if there's the responsible way of how the technology is built, how it can be used, and how we really can help protect the environment around us. So that's one of the projects that I really enjoyed working on. I obviously did communications and a little bit of volunteer work on the side. It was definitely a team effort, but I definitely say that that was one of the most impactful conservation projects that I was really passionate about, and I'd be looking to do more of in the future as well.
Wow, that is super meaningful work. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure our audience has gained a lot from this conversation.
No worries, and thank you so much, Jackie, for the time. I hope it was a helpful session for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.